right? So we'll see functionalities of an object. Nothing but technically we call them as methods. And as I told you, methods are not simple. They are huge scope. You have huge scope for the methods, right? Now let me try to introduce some methods, right? So we described in the previous class, I'm taking again basic example, right? No, today our focus would be on methods, not on properties, right? Now I'm going to take method here. Same, I'm describing a student again. Now we have described some set of properties, name, age, like this we have described set of properties. Now I'm going to write some functionalities. So what functionalities? Let's suppose read is the one functionality, write is the one more functionality, like this. Lots of functionalities you can write inside this. It's very important, guys, understand this. So whenever you talk about object oriented programming, set of properties and set of functionalities, that's it. That is nothing but a object oriented programming, right? So this is one more important part whatever we are going to discuss. Now there are some things need to be taken care here when you talk about these functionalities. Now I'm going to write some functionalities into the class. Now open right. This is my student class. Previously whatever we have seen. Now I'm going to add some functionalities here. So there is a syntax is given for, right? These methods are actions which are performed by each and every student object. In simple words, in generally, right? So the actions which are performed by each and every student object. There are, I have taken two actions as you see, read action and write action. But to write these actions, technically we call them as methods. Technically we call them as methods, right? So there is a syntax is given to write these methods, and you can very simply you can remember the syntax, so which is almost similar to what the main method. It's not exactly main method, but that is the signature you have for a method: public, static, void, main, string, args, and open brace, close brace. Not exactly all required actually. There are some optional things also there, but there are some compulsory things are there if you want to write a method, right? Now I'm going to write a method void. What is the meaning of this? We'll see. Read. So a method, whenever you write a method, we use this symbol method, and it will have its own body, method body, right? So this is what a method is. The method body, nothing but whatever the operation you want to perform. Every student read. Right, now I'm just writing system.out.println inside this. System.out.println, right? Student reads. So this is a method which is common to each and every student object. And in the same way I have one more method called as void write. Write means what? Again system.out.println, student writes, right? So these are two methods I have added, nothing but, right? These are two methods I have added to my code, and each and every student can perform these two operations. Student object. Now what is my student object here? My student object, right? So my student object is nothing but a set of properties, right? So these properties defines what a student object is: roll number, name, object, course, address. Each and every student object will have these set of properties, and each and every student object will have these two set of functionalities, right? So a student object is nothing but Every student object will have these set of properties and these functionalities. That is the meaning of what? A student object. Now how to call these functionalities? Right? So I'm going to write my main class to call these functionalities. So very important these things. Without this you don't see any programming in Java. This is what you will be seeing every day in your programming. So there is a factory class, I think, for student or something, student main something I have taken, right? So just I am creating a student object. I'm removing all this piece of code. A student object I have created. Now it is a set of properties like name and all, right? Now I am going to call its functionality S1 student1 dot what is functionalities I have? Read is the one functionality you have, right? Now just I am going to run my program. Let's see what is going to happen there. Student main.java and student main, right? Student reads. Now in the same way I can call all the methods here. S1 data write. There is some simple statement I have in my code and I'm going to execute it. Now this one gives you student writes. So like this each and every student object can perform these two operations. Each and every student object can perform these two operations, right? S2. S2 dot read. So that is student 1, this is student 2. Right? S2 dot read. Right? So simple, this is how we call. So there are simple rules you need to remember if you want to call a method of an object, right? So object identifier, this is called as, so which is used to identify the object. Object identifier dot method name. Object identifier dot method name. And the object is created for student class and you can call the methods of the student class. You can call the methods of the student class with this identifier. You cannot call any other methods. Only there are two methods I have written and you can call only two methods of that class. You cannot call any other methods from the student class. Right? So this is what you have here. So this is how we write a method. It's a simple thing, but it is not complete explanation of a method, right? As I told you, it is huge to discuss, right? So this is a complete student object. Now what is this student object means here? Generally when you talk about a object in real time, whenever you talk about a object contains set of properties and set of actions. That is called as an object, right? So whenever you call this student dot read and student dot write, the code whatever you write inside this is going to be executed and it is going to execute here a action, right? Whenever you perform an action, right, you will come up with some kind of results here, right? So this is how we write the methods. So we'll see the what is the syntax we have for a method. First we try to understand the syntax of a method, then we try to write some methods with the help of some other classes, right? So still more clearly we try to understand about the methods, right? A method, as I told you, has some different parts, right? So a method generally contains different parts here. The first thing is access specifier and it is optional. In the case of main method it is public. In the case of main method it is public, right? It is an access specifier. Then it can contain an access modifier. Again it is optional. Whatever I am writing in the square braces, that is optional, right? Specifier public and access modifier. In the case of main method, static is the access modifier, right? Access specifier modifier. You can have any number of access modifiers. Only one access specifier is allowed, but you can have combination of modifiers. We'll see what is the meaning of modifiers later. So here you have, and very important, return type. It is compulsory. Return type, it is compulsory for a method, right? So this is the third part of, and it is compulsory in my program void, in the program of my method. So in my class, so whatever I have written here, void is called as a return type, and it is mandatory and must. Without return type we cannot write a method. Absolutely, it is compulsory. Then a method name, right? Method name, again it is a compulsory. Without a method name we cannot write a method. Method name is also compulsory, right? And you will have a parameters, right? You will have what? Parameters, right? So here a method can have parameters, and they are also optional, not required. We call them as parameters, list of parameters, parameters list, and they are also optional, not required, not compulsory. It is not sufficient, this space. Okay, let me clear, and somewhere I will write it. Right. Method name, and always when you write a method name, it should have a open curly open parenthesis, right? And it contains a parameters list, and it is optional. You can have and you cannot have. In my method case, no, I did not write anything. And a method body, and it is also optional. Method body, a method contains what? Method body, and method body is also optional, not compulsory. Method body is nothing but generally the logic which you want to execute, right? So there are some compulsory. So if you want to write a method, what is compulsory? It's compulsory method body. Yes, it is also optional. It's not compulsory, it is optional. But for general case, we will have the body. Now access specifier, optional case, right? Access specifier, it is optional, right? Access specifier, it is optional. Modifier optional, right? Return type compulsory, method name compulsory, and parameters list optional, and body is also optional. But if you see my method here, I have a return type and I have a method name, no parameters, and method body I have written, though it is optional. But there is a special scenario, we will try to understand that later, right? So generally whenever you write a method, that means it performs some kind of operations. It performs some kind of operations. That is what a method means. Right, so this is what a general syntax you have for a method: specifier, modifier, and remember guys, this is compulsory. Without this you cannot have a method. And whenever you want to call a method, what we need to take care here, whenever you want to call a method, we require a object identifier, that is the first thing. You require a method name, second thing, and if the method takes any parameters, you need to pass the parameters. But in my program, my method does not take any parameters. My method does not take any parameters, right? So in general, whatever the objects we talk about generally contains a set of properties and set of methods. So what is the syntax for a class? Can anybody say what is the syntax for a class you have? The syntax for a class is nothing but instance variables and instance methods, right? So these are called as instance variables. Set of instance variables and set of instance methods is called as a class, right? And these all together called as members of a class. What are members of a class? Instance variables and instance methods are called as members of a class. Why these are called as instance methods? because each and every object will have one copy of this method. Each and every object can execute these methods. So in my program you can see here, 1 dot read, again 2 dot read, 3 dot read, n dot read. Like this, any object you create for a student class, they can call these methods, and this is how we write a method. So this is the general syntax we have for a method. So it is very simple to remember. So if you want to remember a method syntax, always you can remember the main method syntax, right? In the main method, public is specifier, static is modifier, void is return type, main is the method name, and string arguments, that is a parameter. And whatever the code you have written, this is body, main method's body, right? So like this you have. We'll try to understand when we come across this public and static, and they are optional. You don't need to write this. For main method, they are compulsory. Why they are compulsory also we discuss later, right? So this is how we write the methods. Then what is the importance of the method? What they do? What is the purpose of these methods, right? So generally there are multiple usages, as I told you. We'll discuss one by one. Methods are used by the objects to communicate with each other. Methods are used by the objects to communicate with each other. There's the first usage. Later we try to write the program. Now to more clearly to see these methods, to understand these methods, right? Now I'm going to design a class, right? A simple class I'm going to design, by using which we try to understand what methods are for actually. Now my class is like this, right? Just help me guys to design this class. I would like to create a class called as account class. I would like to create a class called as what? Account class, right? With set of attributes and with set of functionalities, nothing but set of methods. Now can anybody describe this? What I should have as part of the account class? We try to write it, and then we try to write a program for that. Account class, right? Bank account class is nothing but bank account I would like to write, so that we try to understand what are these methods for with this example. Class name is account, right? Next, int account number, somebody said, right? Okay, fine. Come on, ACC number, ACC name. So whenever you take the attributes, don't separate them by using underscores. That is the wrong way to do it, right? No, that is not the standard way of writing the variables. Absolutely balance is integer. That is enough, right? I'm going to take these three things, right? Right? So these three are my fields. Now whatever the properties of this, methods of this, what it is going to do, what I can do. Yep, methods. Absolutely. Deposit, display balance, withdraw. Okay, fine. Now somebody said deposit. What is the meaning of deposit? What is the meaning of deposit? How are you going to deposit? Putting the cash, right? So I need to pass some kind of input. I need to give some, how much amount you want to deposit. I need to give it to what? That is what my input. What is the meaning of withdraw? What is the meaning of withdraw? Again, I need to take some amount. I need to give some amount. I want to deduct. So these are the two operations I'm going to take. Later we see how to get the money, right? Simple two operations. So if I want to deposit, what happens when I deposit? What happens when I deposit? The balance changes. What happens when I withdraw? The balance changes, right? Now I'm going to write a class for this. Carefully observe, this is the first And first example here, right? So public class account is the class name. So we try to understand what, so you have a basic understanding of what, how to call the methods. Okay, long or integer account number, you can take any one account number, string account name, absolutely, and double balance. Right, these three fields defines what is account object is. Okay, now I'm going to write the methods. Void, right, deposit. What is the meaning of deposit? I'm going to give some amount. I'm going to add some amount to the existing amount. How much amount you want to add? I'm going to take it as what, input. How much amount you want to add to the existing balance? I'm going to take it as what? Right. So balance is equals to, oh, small letters. Balance plus amount. This is what? Right. The second operation is what? Void withdraw. Again, how much amount do you want to withdraw? I need to write, right? Again, double amount, how much you want to withdraw, and it should be deducted from the balance. It looks very simple, guys, but there are some important technical points are there inside this. I'm not performing any validation operations. Means what? I'm not performing any validations. I'm not checking if the balance is there or not, if the balance is more than amount or not, such kind of thing. While you withdraw, generally what happens here? Whatever the amount you are entering, it should be less than the existing balance. Right. Correct. Right. Now I'm going to save this class dot java. It's fine. Now I'm going to write one more class to operate on this. Right. So what is that class? I'm taking that class to operate on this account. Public class fine, account main or ATM, that's your chance. It can be any bank account, right? So where generally I'm going to perform the operations, that's your choice, any name you can take. Public class, it's not class, right? Public static void main string args. To which class I need to create the object? ATM class. Is it ATM class? Right, account class. Because where I have my fields, not ATM, right? Account 1 is equals to new account. Right, guys? So what happened when this statement is executed? No, because I want to perform the operations on account, not on ATM. So I'm going to create the object for what? ATM. Account, not for ATM. Right? So what it is having here? Fine, you can do this. But first of all, what values I will have when this statement is executed? Now as we discussed, same thing, right? One account object is created means these three fields are loaded into the memory. These three fields are loaded into the memory with the default values, right? So long will be 0, string will be null, double will be 0.0, right guys? Is it? Right? 0 and null and 0.0. Now if you want to see the values, you can see them. How to write it? System dot R. Okay, fine. Let me write. See, the same program I am going to modify. It may go into multiple modifications, and you need to focus. Multiple modifications I am going to do for this program. Account 1, and it has a what? Account number. I would like to see this account number. When I have created, already we know that it will have default values and balance. Right? Now I'm going to do some operation here. Oh, it's not a student class, right? It is an account class. Account means ATM. Fine, it's compiled. 0 null 0.0. This is what we are expected. Now I am going to initialize my fields, my object with what? New data. What is my new data here? ACC1 data. ACC number. I am going to take 1. This is the account number. These are all we did yesterday. There is no complex comparing to the yesterday. It is very simple, straightforward. It is name, balance. Now I am taking the balance as 10,000. Now I modified this data with my required data, right? Is it okay? What I did here? Just I am overwriting the default values to what? My required values. Fine. Okay. Now you can see twice the same output with your values, right? Okay, guys. Now I would like to add some amount into this account. I would like to add some amount into this account. Right? What I am going to do is I am going to call a method called as right. So I'm going to add like this here, account1 dot. Now what should I do? I want to deposit it. Deposit account1 dot deposit. I'm going to deposit means what? 5,000 something. Right? So after depositing, what happens here? So this is what it is, changes the values, and I am getting the values. Now account1 dot deposit, what it is going to do? So it is going to call a method of what? Account class. This is the object of type account. It is going to call a method of account class. And what is this method is called? How this method is called? Now see this, deposit, and here I have a variable. What is this? Double amount. Now how to call this deposit method? There is only one way to call this deposit method. What is it? Because this takes an amount, how much amount you want to deposit, you need to invoke this method by always passing the data, and the data must be of type double. The data must be of type double. So indirectly what it is the meaning of this? So whatever the data I am passing from there, whatever how much data I am passing from here, I am passing 5,000 from here. This 5,000 will be stored into a variable called as amount. Right? This 5,000 will be stored into a variable called as amount. It is indirectly equal to what? Double amount equals to 5,000. But I am passing the data from there. That is the meaning of this. Right? So that is the meaning of this method call. So when I am calling this method, by passing some amount, so this 5,000 will be stored into amount. Amount here. Amount becomes 5,000. Now it starts it starts executing this method. Now what it is doing here? It is trying to add this amount to the balance. Now what happens here? How much balance I have? How much balance I have here? I have 10,000 balance in the account 1, and to the 10,000 it is going to add 5,000. It is going to add 5,000. Now how much balance? Again it is going to store this in back to what? Balance. It is going to store this back to balance. So what happens to the balance of account 1? What happens to the balance of account 1 now? Increases by 5,000, right? Now we'll see. After calling this operation, we'll see. Just we print the balance. Because I'm modifying the balance, just I would like to print the balance here. That I modified the balance. Now let's see what balance I modified, which account's balance I modified. Account 1's balance I modified. Let's see what it is going to do for me. See the balance, 15,000 you can see. Right? Right? So this is before deposit. So if you want to clearly see, just I'm going to add before deposit, and this is after deposit. Right? Now before deposit it was 10,000. Now after deposit it is 15,000. Right? Now again same story here. Now I'm going to do same. This is before withdraw. I'm going to withdraw. So how to call withdraw method? How to call withdraw method? When you want to call a method, what I said, you need to use the object identifier. This is the object identifier. And what is the method name? Method name is withdraw. This is the second thing you need to take care. And if a method takes the arguments, you need to pass the arguments. So if you want to call a method, you need to see the object identifier and method name. You should use the exact method name. And if it is takes any data, you need to pass the data. What is the data it is taking? Again, this method is taking the data of type double. So you need to pass one double value. So if you want to invoke this method, you must pass one double value. Without passing one double value, you cannot invoke this method. Absolutely no. Right? So I am passing the double value here. I am passing some 2,000. So how much I am passing here? 2,000. After passing 2,000, what I am going to do is I am going to check the balance again. This is after withdraw. Right? So before withdraw, after withdraw. Just I would like to run this program. See, 13,000. Right? So like this, I have these two methods. Now my two methods takes the arguments. Right? Double, and there is how to invoke the method of this class. How to invoke the method? You need to create an object for this class. Through that object, you need to call a method name. If you want to call a method, you need to use its name. If it is takes any arguments, you need to pass it. In the previous student class case, I don't have any arguments. I did not pass them. And this one takes the arguments. You need to pass the arguments. If it is take two arguments, you need to pass two arguments. Right? Right? If you take two arguments, you can pass two arguments. Now what is this? This is also called as a local variable. So what are instance variables? What are local variables in this program? Right? There is no way. You need to see the method signature. If you want to know, you need to see the method signature. For that, for the Java programmers, there is a API is given. You can take the help of API to know what method is having this. So it should be, there is no other way. Definitely you know what method names and what attributes it takes. Now if you see, there are four variables we have. One is account number, one is account name, one is balance. Right? One is account number, one is account name, one is balance. Three variables here, one more variable here. Here one more variable, here one more variable. Right? So this double amount is the instance variable. Right? So double amount is not an instance variable, it is local variable, local to this method. This is not part of object. This double amount is not part of object. What are the variables which are part of object? These are the variables which are part of object. right? Okay, now fine. So if you want to call this method, you need to know the arguments, and there is only one way. Remember, method name by passing double value. There is no other way, right? Now I'm going to add one more account here. I'm removing all these things. I think you understand these things. Now account, I'm going to create one more account object. Now this is where I'm going to modify this program. So from here, just try to carefully understand what I'm trying to explain here. This is what account 2. In the same way, I am initializing the account 2 also. In the same way, 12 digits account number. Is it possible? Is it possible? If it is within the range, it is possible. If it is within the range of long, it is possible. Otherwise, no. Right? Account number 2, XYZ. Right? Long type, yes, there is a limitations you have. Range already I have given. Just you need to check the data here. Right? Account 2, account 1. Two account objects with their own data with the same common instance variables, right? Right, I'm going to do same operation. And what is this again? I'm going to remove this. Okay, I'm going to remove this. Now I'm going to write the same here. ACC1 data deposit. I would like to deposit 10,000 into this. Okay, fine. No, I would like to deposit some 25,000. Now this is account 2. How many times you want to call these methods? Those many times you can call. Absolutely you can call. There is no nobody stops you. Nothing you can stop you. Account 1 dot deposit, if you want to call 1,000 times you can call. Now can you say what is the balance of account 1, what is the balance of account 2 after this operation? What is the balance of account 1 and what is the balance of account 2 after this operation, both accounts? Just I think you can say this by seeing these statements. No need to see the program there. Account 2 balance is account 2 deposit 25 plus 5. It is 30, absolutely correct. And account 1 is what? 10 plus 5, 10,000 plus 5,000. It becomes a 15,000, right guys? Save, execute it. 15 and 30, right? So to the existing balance, I have added into the account 1 balance 10,000, I have added 5,000 more. To the account 2 balance, I have added 25,000. It was 5 and I have added 25. It is 30,000. It's fine, right? Now we will see other side of this. We will see this class now. Now I would like to ask some questions here. So what method I have invoked in both cases? Deposit method. Clear? What method I have used here? A deposit method. Clear? Right. Now my question is, now twice I have called the deposit method and here I have used balance. Now this balance belongs to what object? There are two account objects. Clearly understand my question here. Right, here I written balance, that's it. Balance is equal to balance plus amount. So this balance belongs to what object? Why I am asking this question is, here I have clearly written account 1 dot balance, account 2 dot balance. But coming to this ATM class, account class, I did not written whether this balance is of account 1 or account 2. Now this balance belongs to what object? So this method can be called by 1000 account objects. Now this balance belongs to what object? Now if you see the other program ATM, there I have separated them. There I have separated them, right? So if you see this class, I have separated them. I clearly can say what? This is the balance of account 1 object of account class. This is the balance of account 2 object of what? Account class. Now but coming to this class, now here, is this balance belongs to account 1 or account 2? There are two objects. Balance variable belongs to, that's fine. Balance variable belongs to the object of account. But my question is it belongs to account 1 object or account 2 object? Both. But here I am differentiating them. Like this. Right? So that is the first key point to be understand here. That is fine. Whatever the answers you have given are correct. Right? So whenever you call this method by using a object, right? So first time I called this method by using account 1. So this balance belongs to account 1. Right? This means indirectly, this means what? This is when I call this deposit method by using account 1. When I call this method by using account 1, now whatever the operations are there in that deposit method, all belongs to what? Account 1 object. Whatever the operations you do, all operations belongs to what? Account 1 object. Right? Okay. So when I call this method on account 1, so this balance belongs to account 1. So indirectly account 1 dot deposit by passing a 10,000. So this is account 1 balance and this is also account 1 balance. When I call the same method on account 2, now this balance belongs to what? Account 2. So you need to always see the object which is calling this method. And that balance of that object is going to be modified. Okay? Yes. When this method is called by account 1, the balance belongs to account 1. When this method is called by account 2 object and this balance belongs to account 2 object. If it is called by account 3 object, this balance belongs to account 3 object. Right? So like this you have. Right? So here I am able to differentiate, but when coming to the class, no need to use the object. So why I am saying this is a very important technical point inside this. Right? So instance variables of a class can be directly accessed with the instance methods. That is the meaning of that explanation. Why I am very much particular about this explanation is instance variables of a class can be directly called inside what? Instance methods. Very, very important point to be noted. Instance variables of a class can be directly called in the instance methods. No need to use any object reference like this. Unlike outside of this class, how I used an object reference to call the instance variables, how I use the object reference outside of a class to call the instance variables, but within the class you don't require any object reference to call these variables. They can be directly called inside instance methods. Okay, did you understand what I said? Guys, did you understand? Yes. Somebody says yes. What about others? Yes, right? So very important key point here. Instance variables of a class can be directly called in the instance methods directly. We'll come to this point later because I'm very much specifically about this point, right? So here, so no need to use any object reference. No need to use account 1 dot no need to write account 1 dot account 2 dot. Directly you can call, unlike the other class. This is the one thing, right? So what is this deposit method is doing for me? Can you say what is this deposit method is doing for me, or withdraw method is doing for me? Okay, technically, Technically what is it is doing, that is correct. Right. So technically can you say what is it? What these two methods are doing? Both are operating on what? Balance. Right? This is one more key important point. Instance methods are used to generally, this is a general point here. Instance methods are generally used to operate on instance variables. Why we use instance methods? Instance methods are used to operate on what? Instance variables. So this is what here you have. My deposit method or my withdraw method are used to operate on instance method. They have lots of different things, functionalities they can perform. This is the one out of those. Instance variables are instance methods are used to operate on what? Instance variables. Okay, so they can directly access and they are used to operate on instance variables. Fine. Did you understand this? So operates on instance variables means what? They are going to modify the data. Right? Is it okay? Right guys? Okay? Simple point. Okay, fine then. Right? So this is the second key point you have. And now my question here is, try to concentrate on this. Now, is it necessary to write these methods in my class? Is it necessary to write these methods in my class? If this is my class syntax, if this is my class, I have written like this. Is it necessary to write these methods in my class? Yes, absolutely not required. Why? Right? Theoretically, theoretically, it is required. So you cannot operate on the balance. You cannot operate on the balance without depositing, without performing a action, or without withdrawing. Right? So that is what. If you want to change your balance, in the how the bank account balance changes, when you perform a deposit operation or when you perform a withdraw operation, then only it is this. But this is a big mistake in my code. What is my big mistake this class is having? Now see here. Now I'm commenting this deposit operations. I'm commenting this deposit operations. I can directly access what? ACC1 dot balance. Now what I'm trying to do? ACC1 dot balance, I'm trying to modify it to 15,000. Is it not going to modify the balance value? Is it not going to modify the balance value? It will. ACC2 dot balance. Is it not going to modify the balance value to 30,000? I am modifying this. Right? Now let us run this program. You see still 15 and 30,000. Whatever I did with my deposit method, I am doing the same. But which is meaningful? Which is the correct way of modifying the balance? That is the reason why I asked that question. Is it compulsory to have a deposit method or withdraw method in my class? If my class is written like that, it is not required because you can access the balance. If you are able to access the balance, what is the need of what? Writing deposit and withdraw kind of functionalities. But my question is, which one is correct? Accessing the balance is like this is correct, or performing the operations on the balance in this way is correct? Calling the method is correct. Why calling the method is correct? No. Again, there is a key. Again, there is a key point is there inside it, right? So again, we need to theoretically we need to analyze it, right? So now here, let's suppose myself I am taking as an object. Now I have some, let's suppose, okay, mobile we take as object, general object. We will have a battery and it is charged. In most general case, how the battery is going to discharge? Battery is one of the property, and battery has some like voltage. It is battery's property. How that voltage gets reduced? Usage. If you don't use, the voltage will not be reduced generally. Now if you take a pen object, it will have some property called as ink quantity. How the ink quantity gets reduced? If you write, without writing it will not do. Any operation you take, right? So when you do some kind of operation, then only the properties comes into picture, right? How a car moves. So car moving is what? A car is a combination of what? Lots of different internal parts. How it moves? When you accelerate it, then tire moves, then petrol flows. All these happens what? When you perform a operation. So how the ink is going to be reduced in a pen? When you write it. So it is not correct to operate on the data directly. Always the data of a object, always the data of a object will be operated through what? Functionalities, right? Always the data. Now whatever you take here, if you consider yourself also, right? Legs, if I take the legs, now if I move, then only my legs operates, my properties, right? That means legs are my properties, and when I perform action called as move, then they start working, right? So whenever you perform the operations, whenever you do some operations, right? And so not operations, the data of a object should be operated through only the functionalities. It's not correct to operate directly on the data. No way. Right, as I'm saying, right? Battery discharges when you use it. Using means what? Call or anything. That is a calling is a operation you are doing. Pen, ink gets decreased when you write it. If you don't write it, how the ink is going to decrease? Always the data will be operated through the functionalities. No, data is not directly operated. You cannot use the data directly. Always the data should be used with the functionalities only. Right? Always the data need to be used with the functionalities only. Save it. Now this is a very key point here. So this is absolutely wrong way to accessing the data from a class. No, this all whatever I did, this is absolutely wrong way to access the data. If you are able to access the data, what is the meaning of functionalities? No meaning of functionalities. Right? How a light glows? How a light is going to change the switch state? When you switch on it, then only it changes the state. Its property changes. How speed of a car is going to change? How a speed of a bicycle is going to change? When you perform some action, riding, then only the speed changes. If you don't perform any action, nothing happens to the object's internal state. How the money from the ATM is going to get deducted? When you perform lots of operations, insert the card, lots of operations you need to perform, right? So this is not the correct way to operate on the data. No, always it is we operate the data with functionalities. Now how can I protect the data which should not be accessed outside of a class? Right? So you should protect the data always, because the data should be operated with its functionalities only. If you want to operate on an account, either by operate on the balance by using deposit or by using withdraw. So how can you protect this data? We have a access modifier called as private. So this is how we can protect the data, by adding this. So when you protect this data, now these things cannot be operated directly, right? So private, C means what is this? They are private to this class, and they should be operated with these functionalities only. Remember, this is, if you observe these things, whatever I am saying, it is not technical. Whenever you observe some objects, which you can see here, the same thing. How if I take a bottle, how a bottle gets filled? You need to perform some action, then only bottle gets filled. How a bottle gets decreased? Water gets decreased from a bottle. You need to perform some action, otherwise what happens to the bottle? Right? Bottle state changes. That means values changes with the functionalities only, without changing the functionalities. No. If I want to change the account name, what should I do? You need to perform a operation to change the account name. Otherwise, how it changes? Getting me? What I'm trying to say? Yes, right. So you should not give any other, right? Should not, this data, whatever the data you have of a object, this data should be operated with the functionalities of that object. I am an object. Whatever the properties have, they should be operated with my functionalities only. Somebody cannot access directly. No, I should protect, right? So here, this is how you protect it. Now, when I have protected my data, now what happens if I compile ATM? It is saying what? Lots of errors. Boss, you cannot access account number, you cannot access account name, you cannot access a balance because they are private. Now, if I want to operate them, there is only one way. There is only one way. You need to operate on them with their functionalities. Now, to more clearly, now what happens? Now, how to give a name for my account? How to give a number for my account? So I am going to take one more method here to give a names, everything. So whenever I create an account, initially what I want to have, public, no, okay, you can have public or not, void, return type, create account. So I am asking somebody to create my account. What is the meaning of creating an account? Initializing int number, this is account number. Oh, it is of type long, right? Comma, I am going to take a name for my account, string name, again it is of type string, and I want to have some balance in my account. Again it is of type double balance. Now this is the method I am going to call to initialize my account object, right? Now what is this this method is going to, this method is going to help for me? This method is going to, whatever the data I pass into number, I am going to store this data into what? Account number of that object. Whatever the data I pass into name, I am going to store that name into name object, right? Whatever the data I pass into balance, balance is equals to BAL. Now this is one more method I have added to my class. Now what this method is doing for me, this method helps me to create an account with these three values, and this method helps me to change the balance. This method helps me to change the balance again, right? Now how to initialize my object now? If you want to initialize your account object, how to initialize your account object here, right? So whenever you call this, now you cannot call the properties. You cannot call the properties, right? Now whenever you want to initialize this, now if you want to see your account details, how should I see my account details? Because these things you cannot directly call now. I made them as private, so they are not accessed outside. They should be operated through their functionalities, methods. Now if I want to see my account details, now for this I am going to write a method here, void get account details, void get account details. Now whatever the system.out.println I have written there, I am writing here. Right? Number is equal to ACC number. As I told you, instance variables can be directly operated through what? Instance methods. Instance variables can be directly operated through what? Instance methods. So this is also instance method. All whatever I am writing, they are all instance methods. This is balance. right? Now see, if you want to create an account, now if you want to get the details of account, what you need to do here? If you want to get the details of account, you need to call a method called as get account details. Get account details, now which is going to give the object which is calling this method, the object which calls this method, that object's details it gives, right? So if I call this method by using account1, this gives the details of account1, account number, name, balance. If I call this method by using account2, this will give the number, name and balance of account2, right? So like this. Now I am going to call this method from the ATM. So initially when I have created, what I have, the balance, account1 data, get account details. In the same way, see, the code is also gets reduced. Previously I have written 6 statements to see all my details, but only 3 statements are doing for me now in that class. Now let me run this. These two also you cannot access now, right? Just let me comment this. ATM default values, right? This is the first account object with the default values. This is the second object with the default values. Now after depositing, what happens? Again I would like to see the details after depositing. Now again simply call these methods. They gives you the default, they gives you the values. See? Okay. It's fine. Actually it is executed and it's given you the correct output. See, just I deposited, but what value is modified? Only balance is modified. Still these values are nulls only. Now if I want to initialize those values also, what do I need to do? Account1 data, right? ACC1 data, create account. Now as I told you, whenever you want to call a method, object reference is required and method name is required. Now what is my method name? I forgot actually. Create account takes 3 arguments, one long value, one string value, one double value, right? Now I need to pass those things now. One long value I am passing here. Where is that create account? You cannot call that method without passing this data. One long value, one string value and one double value, 10,000. Now in the same way, account2 dot create account. Its name is 2, its number is 2, its name is XYZ, and I'm giving it 15,000. Right? Now I have initialized my account with these values. Now let me call account details. Now let me call my account details, save and execute it. Spelling mistake, create account, is it wrong? ACCOUNT, CREATE. What is the error? OUNT. Create account, right? Spelling mistake, nothing is there. See, initially it is created with the default values. Now I am changing my values with by performing some kind of operation. Create me the account with this data. Now it has created, and create me the second account with this data. It is created, right? So this is what is actually twice I am printing, it seems. Yeah, twice I am printing. It's not required. Right? So what is this create account is doing? One is copied into where? One is copied into number, From that number it is copied into account number. What is this account number? This account number belongs to the object which is calling this method. Now first time I call this method by using ACC1. Now this account number belongs to the ACC1. Second time I call this method by using ACC2. This account number belongs to what? ACC2. Right? So this method initializes your object. These two methods changes the balance, and this method gives your object data. So very important, instance methods are used to operate on the instance variables. They should not be operated directly. It is the case with all objects, whatever you observe in your real time also. Whatever the properties you want to access of a object, they should be accessed by performing some kind of operation. No way of directly accessing them. Right? Now this is what here. Now what is this method is doing? It is initializing. This method is changing the balance. This method is giving the balance, giving the details. Right? Now if I want to change the balance of my account, you can go for a deposit. Right? What happens here if I deposit? 5,000 will be added to the balance. Account 1 dot deposit by 5,000. What is going to do? To this it is going to add 5,000. To this it is going to add 25,000. Save it. Just run this. Compile. Once you modify your code, you need to compile it. See here, 25, 15 and 40,000. Now this is how we write a class. We protect the data and we operate the data with what? Some methods. Still lots of things to be discussed. So today a method, what a method is, we have used these. A method is used to operate on the instance variables. That is the one important thing I have given. But lots of different functionalities a method can do. But this is a very basic what a method can do. Did you understand how I change my program, why I am changing my program? Okay? Do you have any doubts? Now, if you have any doubts, you can ask now.